Yeah, so I guess first question is for Miguel over at Arkham. What exactly is Arkham? I know you touched upon it a little bit within your introduction, but would you mind expanding on it?
Yes, definitely. So my sort of original vision with Arkham was, basically this idea of blockchains and of decentralized information regarding transactions seemed, really cool, seemed great, seemed very useful to have a more kind of open financial system. But one of the difficulties with it is essentially that, half the time you don't really know what you're looking at. And so even if there are sort of public broadcastings of these transactions across blockchains, when you're using sort of regular tools or looking at the blockchain directly, it can kind of just look like a bunch of junk and a bunch of sort of pseudonymous addresses moving money around between one another. But you don't know which of these addresses are connected with one another. You don't know if they're owned by the same person, by the same entity or institution. And it can be really difficult to actually have, a very clear picture or a very clear story of what exactly is going on within the ecosystem. Obviously, over the past year, I think many people have learned a lot about the importance of on-chain information and making sure that monitoring on-chain info is being done by you and being done by the community, but B, making sure that you have a much more clear picture of, okay, what are all of the addresses that belong to this particular person or to this particular exchange? Can we come up with a full kind of even balance sheet of the holdings so that we know, if we can trust these people? Can we look at it and see if their behavior on chain matches the sort of public statements that they're making? Are they trustworthy? And so I wanted to kind of build something that could really turn public blockchain information into something that is incredibly useful and very easy to read for people. And so that's why we sort of got started on building Arkham and spent a couple of years actually developing the infrastructure to be able to make the labels, make the attributions, be able to confidently say, okay, these addresses belong to these different funds, these addresses belong to these different institutions, and then putting that all into a beautiful UI where people can very easily make searches and run queries and do all of the relevant diligence that they need to do in order to have accurate information to take the best actions on chain essentially.
Awesome. Yeah, and I guess do you have any other founders, or I guess could you talk about the core team? Did you have anyone else that you worked on this from the start with?
Yeah, definitely. So I have one co-founder who's the CTO, and he sort of leads all of the architecture regarding the actual software of the project. And so that's a very heavy lift to be able to create a kind of more information-rich platform where you have all these different blockchains and you're taking in a bunch of both on-chain and off-chain information, and then adding all the attributions and so on. So that's a very heavy lift, but he leads our engineering team. And I think the sort of broader team right now, I think we're about 13 people at this point, split up across engineering and I guess what we would describe as growth and operations. So I tend to sort of think about the company in two ways. You're either, writing code and making the platform better and making the platform more beautiful, or you're going out there and sort of spreading the word about Arkham and helping us to get users. And so we're about 13 people altogether.
Amazing. Yeah, and I saw not a little bit of beef, but what's your guys' growth strategy? I saw, I think it was you and the CEO of Nansen, or someone at Nansen, kind of going back and forth, and you guys don't have to touch upon like anything in that regards at all. But what's the growth strategy behind Arkham?
I would say in general, the number one most important thing is just having a really great product that people love to use. All of our growth is organic. We've never kind of, tried to actually pay for people to join the platform. All of that has been, mostly through word of mouth. And so, for those of you who are already users of Arkham, you know that we have a referral program where you're able to post links where you can help your friends join our beta, or you have an invitation button within the platform itself, and you can invite some users in that way. And so all of the growth really has come from the fact that I think people enjoy using the platform first and foremost. And then afterwards, they want to invite their colleagues, right? And I think that, this is also what happens at trading firms, for example. And I'll let Fred talk a little bit more about this, but very frequently there will be one person who has maybe heard about Arkham and begins using it, and then very quickly they sort of tell their colleagues about it, and then all of a sudden, the entire organization is using it. So, that's sort of been our general kind of user growth direction.
Amazing. Yeah, awesome. So it's funny, I actually have Arkham open on my computer in front of me right now. And so could you answer, I guess, some of what Arkham plans to solve? I see like dashboards, visualizers, alerts, etc. Could you maybe go in depth with those different areas, what they hope to achieve, and what they hope to help people with exactly within on-chain data?
Yeah, so I would say the core kind of piece of what we're attempting to do, what we want to make easier for people, is doing more diligence in the cryptocurrency community and in the cryptocurrency space, and leveraging one extremely crucial piece of information and data which exists in crypto and in crypto only, which is this broad network of publicly broadcasted transactions. That's sort of like the heart of it. Everything else sort of falls underneath that, where we try to do that in different ways. So first of all, the sort of first layer of this is we try to turn the research from and the data from something that's pseudonymous to something that is easily understood by people. We generally don't, when we talk about people making big trades or whale transactions and stuff like that, we generally don't talk about it in terms of blockchain addresses. We always say, hedge fund X just bought, a ton of crypto, or this particular person just sold a ton. So speaking about everything, blockchain related in real names, real words, I think is super important. So that's the kind of first layer of what we attempt to do: take everything that's pseudonymous and actually turn it into something that's an easy story to tell. The second thing on top of that would then be the ability to see this data in different ways and manipulate it in different ways. For some kinds of research, it's a lot easier to see the data in kind of aggregated number format. So, for example, that would mean you want to see all of the balances, or you want to see all of the volume of this particular kind of entity. In some other cases, you want a list. Maybe you want a list of every single transaction that the person has ever made. Or if you're trying to identify maybe what other wallets are owned by this particular individual or institution, then in that case, looking at a balance isn't going to help. Looking at a list of transactions will maybe help, but maybe it'll take a couple hours or even more time. So then in that case, maybe you want to move on to the visualizer, so that then you can kind of get a sort of bird's eye view of all of the wallets, see which ones are more closely linked with one another, and then make your attributions from there. And so that's kind of like the additional kind of piece, and then everything else is just kind of trying to make that easier for people. So, for example, setting alerts or looking at dashboards, that's just ways to ingest and get access to information, faster than others, in order to kind of get an edge in your trading or in your diligence process, right? And so we try to build features around making sure that not only do people have access to the information, but in many cases, once they do, they want access to the info faster. They want access to, if anything changes, they want to know that right away. And so we try to build more stuff around that. And then at this point, it's just adding, sort of more breadth to the product, and adding, additional data, additional chains, helping other communities out, not just Ethereum, and kind of growing from there.
Wow, that was a phenomenal answer. Thank you for that. And I guess turning it over to GSR now, how does GSR leverage Arkham, and what role does GSR have in crypto markets?
Hey, so look, I think just to go back on blockchain analysis, I think it's quite interesting. If you look at the definition on Wikipedia, they mention actually the process of visually representing data, and I think when I look at Arkham, I think it's a perfect way to visualize data. And as Miguel was saying, uh, we want the story. I think there's too much really information. There's like too much data everywhere. I mean, we have so many blockchains. There's so many platforms. It's very hard to be lost. It's very easy to be lost, like in this flow of information. So you need to have like tools, and Arkham is one of the best one to actually navigate around all this flow of information. So so for us, I mean, I've mentioned like a few different aspects of our business, but market maker is one of our core business. So that means we like present on like multiple exchanges. We actually like make markets for token issuers on like multiple altcoins, and for us, like this, the data that's on chain is very important for us. I mean, there's tons of information that's available, and you want to know what's going on. You want to track like some wallets. You want to see like who are the big holders. You want to see like who's sending what to which exchange. This information is key, you know. And my role is actually to try to get this data and bring it to like the person that needs it in within GSR. You know, it could be like someone in the sales team, someone in trading, someone in DeFi. And you can if you just look at what happened the past few months, I mean, this is really crucial. You know, you want to you want to know who's, especially now with what happened with FTX and this this idea of like proof of reserve that's been like developed by multiple exchanges. You know, when they tell us that they hold like X and Y tokens, but you want to be able to like verify that. I mean, you can trust obviously like what's been shown on the website, but you want to be extra sure. So you would use like a tool like Arkham to actually check what's inside the wallet. If and you can see like what's you can track that like on a daily basis. Now there are a lot of things that interest us on the blockchain. I mean, obviously, most of the flow and most of the trading still happens on off chain, you know, on exchanges. But you know, there's you want to know what's going on DeFi platform. You want to know what's happening on Uniswap, on SushiSwap, on PancakeSwap. This is very interesting for us. You know, you want to see what the competition is doing. One great thing that Arkham has been doing is this labeling of wallets. I mean, you can use some basic like blockchain scanner. You know, like you can use Etherscan, but like you're gonna be very limited if you want to do some analysis. You would see like maybe like a couple of like wallet names, but that's it. Arkham has found with their, I guess, proprietary algorithm a lot of wallet names. You know, we can identify like some big players in the industry, some exchange wallets that you didn't know, like on Etherscan, for instance. So yes, this is for us like a very useful tool to get the story behind the scene.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and I guess turning it back over to you, Miguel, and then I can add on to this question as well. What does the Avalanche partnership look like to Arkham Intelligence?
So I think first and foremost, as I mentioned, you know, Avalanche has a thriving community of users who are using the blockchain to you know, either use different kinds of you know, web apps or you know, different kinds of things within the ecosystem. Investing, you know, there's so much that people can do inside of you know, on a blockchain. And so one of the things that we're aiming to do is to help provide, you know, more and more kind of transparency and help provide users with more tools for them to be able to, you know, leverage all of the information within the ecosystem to make better decisions. And so Avalanche, as it continues to kind of gain in market share and continues to grow its community and continues to, you know, have people actually adopt the blockchain as more things get built on Avalanche, you know, we wish to provide a sort of layer of data analytics on top that all of the, you know, community members can use in order to try to understand more about what's going on within the ecosystem. Where are the opportunities for them to make money? Where are the opportunities to build? What are the things that are actually gaining traction? And so as part of that now, obviously we're really excited to be working together, and actually, being able to start, looking at all of the Avalanche data and putting together, more products to be able to help the Avalanche community out.
I think Michael from Arkham as well. Arkham is
Let's see. I think we're Matt. You're muted at the
sorry.
moment.
I was muted. Yeah, I was talking to a muted mic. That's my bad. Yeah. So in terms of this partnership for Avalanche, I think it really democratizes our community's access to be able to analyze complex on-chain data. And I think that's super important because a lot of people have trouble even using a block explorer, but something like Arkham simplifies just about everything. So it gives people an inside look as to what's actually happening on chain. And I think that is super important in terms of um, both the longevity of users, but a chain in general. You want to ensure that if nefarious activity is happening on chain, to call those nefarious actors out, to maybe avoid nefarious protocols, to really make intelligent decisions using something like Arkham Intelligence. And so I think um, it really helps our user base, and we want to lean in on this partnership. Maybe having you come to our Avalanche Summit, Miguel, and be a speaker, and continuing to grow together and do events like we are today. So super excited about the partnership going forward.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think that was very well said. One of the issues that I think exists in TradFi that we are trying at least to get rid of within crypto is that access to information, that access to tools for normal people and retail to be able to use, and for community members to be able to use. That means that it's not just the big funds who have these massive edges with products they've built internally or that are super expensive in order to try to get access to the data, right? So one of the things that is kind of fundamentally different about blockchains and about crypto compared to other kinds of asset classes is that element of decentralization and that element of publicly available info. And all of that essentially means that it's much easier for people to build products that can be used by a wider variety of users. And so, as part of that, obviously, I think I think it's great that Avalanche is willing to support this for their community.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was a phenomenal answer. I guess wrapping it up with a few closing questions, and then we'll get to a Q&A from the audience. What are your guys' reflection on the current state of the crypto market, maybe even the macro market? Where do you see us headed? Do you think the worst of it's over? What's your guys' general opinions?
Well, Fred is at the fund, so I'll let him go first.
Well, look, it's a good start. I mean, a bit maybe unexpected. To be honest, I think I'm not the only one who was a bit surprised to see actually this rally in January. But look, I mean, I think the industry suffered like enough in 2022. I think you thought you had enough already with Luna and 3AC, and then November, boom! Like we have now the FTX and the rest happening. So I think this gives like a little bit of breather for the community. I mean, if you look at the Bitcoin mining industry, for instance, I mean, this will definitely like help them, and the rest, like with Ethereum, like again going back to these levels, I think we're a bit more confident. Also, it's nice to see these kind of levels, like just a couple of months before the Shanghai update. Like it would be very interesting to see what happened next. And as I think overall, like there's been like it's good for Avax, it's good for Bitcoin. Um, I think there'll be more confidence for the token issuers for the future token issuers to launch their the project. I think there's a trust probably and issue and a bit fear in the market that was like very present at the end of the year. There's a bit more confidence now. It's this is good. I hope it carries on. And I think that now that there's been a lot of cleanup in the market, I hope we like start on a new basis.
So
Awesome.
my view on it, my view on the market, kind of in general, and then I can hone in on blockchain analytics as well. So my kind of view overall is that the fundamentals here are here to stay, and they're all still in play. You know, it is a conscious decision on all or most of our parts to be in the cryptocurrency ecosystem and be in the crypto community, and build projects related to blockchains and related to cryptocurrency in general. The reason why I'm in the ecosystem and have been in the ecosystem over the past several years is because I think fundamentally, number one, finance and money is a massive market. The financial system is one of the key pillars of our society in general, and it's a really great place to build a business. But two, crypto and blockchains in general are, one to two orders of magnitude better technology than existing kind of fiat payment rails, right? So the kind of idea of needing to wait for a business day in order to send one's own money, or needing to wait until the following day because it's 5 p.m. EST and now all of a sudden the wire can't go out. That is extremely archaic for anybody who has actually interacted in the crypto ecosystem, let alone DeFi in general. And so I think that those fundamentals mean that I think that the cryptocurrency industry in the long run will end up kind of eating into the sort of broader financial market as a whole. And so for now, we're small time and we're small fish compared to where we're going to be in the future. And I think that that's a good place to be positioned in. Shorter term, obviously we're all looking at kind of macro outlook, the Fed rates and, things of this nature just to try to get the industry to sort of thaw and get going again. As Fred mentioned, I think it was pretty unexpected, that things would warm up kind of this fast. But, obviously in hindsight, it really seems like, all of the capitulation that happened late last year, including of some of the largest players who I would have never in a million years thought would have collapsed as quickly as they did. I think those are all really great signs that the worst of it is probably behind us at this point. And so given all of that, I feel really good about building kind of core infrastructure for the cryptocurrency ecosystem to be able to help people do what they do best, which is invest, build new products, try to understand users, and try to understand the blockchain ecosystem as a whole in order to better position themselves for what they want to build, which is, part of the reason why I'm building Arkham in the first place.
Yeah, and I think it's super important to amplify what you said in regards to both blockchain, how it kind of helps regarding efficiencies, but also the nature of the events that have taken place the past year. So I think most of the actors that we've seen have gone kaput from the past year have been centralized entities, and DeFi, most of the protocols on chain with non-nefarious actors have actually done very well and have had not a ton of issues other than exploits. And so I think that's super important to always keep in mind and amplify. And I hope as regulations kind of come the next few years, um, the regulators actually look at the case studies and what exactly happened behind the scenes and realize that, hey, it wasn't anything that happened necessarily on chain. It was more centralized entities that caused the events to happen. Um, I think it's crazy the efficiencies that blockchains really bring. Like you said, settlement being T+2, that's so barbaric to most people that have actually used the various blockchains. I think Avalanche has sub-second finality, which, I mean, sub-second finality compared to 2-day settlement is kind of absurd. We actually just had a fully on-chain central limit order book go live this week, and it's faster in terms of time to finality compared to a lot of its centralized counterparts. And so that just goes to show that even if something is centralized, some stuff on chain can still be faster than it in terms of true time to finality. And so um, that's my personal opinion of kind of the on chain outlook. I think a lot of it now is related to kind of the macro backdrop. I think it will be very interesting in my lifetime as well as in history. It seems like a soft landing has really never occurred during a rate hiking cycle, but the non-farm payrolls numbers this morning showed that wow, the economy is still very, very strong in nature. I think there is some stuff that are showing the first signs of cracks, like new orders. But other than that, the economy still seems rather strong, even though we've had the most aggressive rate hiking cycle in history. So now I think it's just all eyes on the Fed and kind of the macro backdrop. So as we're wrapping it up, the final question that I have is why do you guys think permissionless public ledgers are better than their counterparts in traditional and finance? And I guess how does on-chain analytics and intelligence play into this permissionless public ledger?
Well, number one, I think overall, the most important thing is that there's no gatekeepers. And so, in traditional finance, more broadly, all of the information is held in these kind of, centralized servers behind either, the entities themselves, like the places where you're trading or the places where you're, making transactions. Those, platforms hold that data and then don't give it to anyone else. Or they sell it to some kind of third party who then puts it behind an enormous paywall. And then you don't, at the end of the day, you don't get access to the data, right? So they're both kind of very negative outcomes for the end user, the trader, the normal guy. The good thing about sort of more permissionless decentralized systems is the fact that the data is actually publicly available, sort of no matter what the entity itself, no matter what the entity itself wants, right? And also irrespective of regulation. I know, like for example, the SEC tries to take steps to have massive players disclose more of their positions and disclose more of the actions that they're taking in the market. But even with that, first of all, there's a lot of hiding that's done by some of those large players. And number two, it's often on a time lag, right? So, generally you won't hear about stuff until 90 days after it's actually occurred and it's already priced in, and there's not really very much action that you can take. Versus with blockchains, in some cases, you can even see the information in the mempool before it's even been confirmed, and you can already start positioning yourself to be in a better spot for whatever market movement is about to happen as a result of the actions of one of these larger players. And so in general, that's part of the reason why I think these sort of decentralized permissionless systems are a lot better than their centralized counterparts. But I think there was one final piece to this decentralized infrastructure that needed to get built, which we have built, which is the ability to not have to swift through thousands and thousands of lines of data, but rather just be able to very clearly find what you're looking for in one kind of seamless interface.
Awesome. And Fred, do you have any thoughts into that question, or should we just go to Q&A within the audience?
Look, I mean, it's a bit maybe like one step back, but I think given what we saw last year with and the issues with the centralized platforms, like I think we can only wish that we see like more decentralized platform like growing, and that will hopefully like solve some of the problems we've seen recently.
Awesome. Yeah. So as we kind of wrap it up, Rocky, if we want to turn to audience-based questions, that sounds like a good plan.
Fantastic. Okay, everybody, now's your time. If you want to go ahead and request to speak, just go ahead and click on that microphone button in the bottom left of your phone. and that'll request you to speak, and then I'll bring you up on stage. As we're waiting for the questions to roll in, Miguel, I actually have a question for you. How did you come up with the name Arkham, and sort of why did you choose that one?
That's a great question. I get asked this all the time. People are always really curious. I think the sort of like primary reason. So, well, number one, after coming up with the kind of overall concept for the business and for the product, one of the original kind of visions for it that still continues to inspire us to this day is kind of this idea of the back computer. And so I think like overall, that's been a massive inspiration for what we're building. And so I wanted to pull a name regarding sort of this idea that kind of inspired this idea of the back computer. Also, like, part of our mission was, okay, well, if people have access to all of this crypto related information, and can more easily see the story of what's actually going on chain, then maybe we'll be able to catch more bad guys a lot sooner, and not let people get too far. And in a world where everybody's using Arkham, then maybe, and this is a bit kind of pie in the sky kind of goal, but there will be significantly less fraud in the space just because it'll get caught so quickly, right? And so I ended up naming the company Arkham, mostly out of kind of Batman mythology, and sort of tipping a nod to this idea of the back computer and of wanting to catch the bad guys.
That's awesome. I love that answer. We do have our first question here from William. William, I'm going to bring you up on stage, and then go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, that name. Honestly, I wish more protocols within crypto had kind of more creative names like that, and like a good origination story. So.
Awesome. William, go ahead.
Yeah, hey guys, thanks for jumping on and kind of deep diving a little bit more on your Arkham project and everything. I have a quick question just in regards to like on the investigation side. So I know there's a lot of sleuths out there who just, love deep diving into hacks and rug pulls and all of that, good stuff, or like not so much good stuff, but you know what I mean. But is there a plan to roll out like some premium features for investigators and people that are professionally working in the investigation side of things? And then I have a follow-up question after that as well.
Yeah, so this is also a pretty popular question. I think in general, the way I've thought about Arkham is not in a kind of is in kind of like an investigative capacity, but not necessarily in like a law enforcement capacity, if that makes sense. So I think like in general, regulatory bodies, people who are working on compliance desks, things of this nature, in many cases they're looking for particular kind of like products and feature sets that we don't have available right now, and to be frank, I don't really have a plan to roll out, just because they're so specified, right? So for example, the kind of like idea of a risk score, right? First of all, I think pretty arbitrary, just because you can kind of set whatever heuristics you want for what's risky versus what's not. Obviously, there are some things that are pretty cut and dry. If you're in the U.S., or really anywhere, and somebody's like sanctioned, or it's like a sanctioned wallet, then yeah, it's going to be pretty risky, no matter who you are, to interact with that address and then try to bring it into the traditional financial system. But overall, we really haven't had many plans to try to roll out this sort of more like compliance heavy feature set. I think other players are kind of more interested in that, and overall, I just think it's like less interesting of a business for us, especially because many people who do work in that kind of like compliance sort of area have already started using Arkham, in some cases even to substitute, or in addition to other sorts of products that they use to try to get this more like crime investigation sort of stuff. But we're sort of more playing to a broader kind of field than just the traditional kind of investigator, and I think that's also part of the reason for why, we've been able to gain, a bit of popularity because we're sort of, as was mentioned before, bringing these tools to way more people than, it was kind of originally intended for, so to speak, with some of the more kind of old guard of the blockchain analytics space.
Yeah, that was something actually that I really liked. That it was much more. Um, well, A, it was available to to anybody, and B, that it kind of illuminates a little bit more for the average trader or people that just have an interest in crypto and whatnot. It's not, well, in general, blockchain analytics is, once you first kind of get into it, you're just kind of overwhelmed at how to read some of the information, and a lot of the tools aren't intuitive, and they shouldn't be, right? Some of the stuff is or can be complex, and it's not you should be deep diving on some of this stuff and getting to know how the blockchain works and whatnot. My second kind of question would be around, and I'm not sure how deep you can kind of get into this, it might be a little more sensitive, but kind of curious about the attribution side of things. I worked for Chainalysis. They have like a massive global intelligence kind of like team that is scraping and doing all the attribution and stuff like that. So I'm kind of curious if you can kind of deep dive a little bit more on like the data side of things, specifically, like the attribution side of things. I know a lot of it. I mean, right, it's all OSINT. You can see it on a blockchain explorer and whatnot. But what are you kind of doing on the attribution side of things?
So I think what I can say about that is, kind of just a reiteration of what you just said, which is that, we basically just pool publicly available, open source information from blockchains directly, and from other kind of like cryptocurrency resources. And then we just, have a team of analysts, who can, take that information and efficiently be able to, place labels and attributes to those wallets. I mean, there's a variety of different kinds of strategies for being able to do this, from, people publishing blockchain addresses to, many people are proud of even like their ENSs and their .eths, and they place them everywhere, right? Or they even have their real name in their .eth, and then you can, see very clearly that's a real person, that's their actual name, and, this is the blockchain address that's affiliated with that ENS. So, there's all of the information that exists on the Arkham platform. If people wanted to independently go and rederive it, it's pretty easy to do. You just have to go through and actually do the research yourself. It's just that doing that at scale is incredibly difficult unless you have a really good team who's focused on it full time. But as you mentioned, all of this information is publicly available in the first place. The difficult part is the actual like collection, aggregation, and then systematic labeling in order to take it from, one address, one person, one entity to, over 100 million, right? That's the difficult part. And so, that's what we do.
No, that's awesome. I've been playing around with it a bunch, and I think it's awesome and fantastic. You're definitely bringing a lot of value to the industry and the community, and had some really good chats with other fans and whatnot of the product, and really looking forward to see what else you guys do. And I'm incorporating it into my tool set and whatnot. So keep up the good work, and looking forward to seeing what you guys do.
Great. Thank you, William.
Okay, thank you, William. Awesome questions. Let's go ahead and get the Mad Hatter up here. Mad Hatter, once you're up on stage, go ahead and ask your question.
Sorry about that. I was on mute. Two quick questions for you. And I am one of the beta testers for Arkham. I'm liking it so far. Do you have any plans along the lines of Solidus Labs for something of a contract checker, let alone KYC or doxing services for future contracts for the chains that you are monitoring?
I'm actually not familiar with Solidus Labs, so I'm not sure exactly kind of what the feature set is. But I think in general, we're not really kind of focusing too much on contract related stuff, or I guess what would be described as doxing services. I think probably from what it sounds like, Solidus might be more catered towards that kind of like regulatory sort of like angle. But for the most part, we really just want to help traders and investors and product people to understand more about what's going on these different blockchains, less kind of regulatory and compliance focused.
Got it. Sorry, Solidus Labs is the parent company for Token Sniffer. So a lot of and the reason I asked that, and I like, again, I'm a beta tester Arkham. I like how it's looking right now. But a lot of the wallets, for example, Trust Wallet has been bringing on partnerships to look at the contracts. Thanks for answering the question, though.
Cool. Yeah, I'll look into it.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, there's been some great questions today. Let's see, anyone else? Last call for questions, and then we'll wrap things up here. We'll just go ahead and give it another 10 seconds, and then we'll wrap things up.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's probably it. Miguel and Fred, thank you so much for joining today. Do you guys have any final closing thoughts before we jump off?
Yeah, thank you very much for having us. And yeah, this was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to working more closely with Avalanche. Going to that summit sounds like a lot of fun. We'll definitely look out for an invite if it's on the table. But yeah, no, this was great, and I'm really looking forward to working with you guys and working with your community. For members of Avalanche who haven't yet joined the Arkham beta, feel free to sign up. I see plenty of people have actually started quote tweeting this space with their referral links. You can feel free to use one of those. Alternatively, you can go on our website or on our Twitter page, and you can sign up there as well. These days, we're going through and processing as fast as we can, so you should get on relatively quickly. And yeah, thank you very much, Fred, from GSR for joining as well. And always great to work and to chat with you guys. And as always, really appreciate your support and your usage of the product.
Yeah, and I guess final closing thoughts from me. I just want to say another thank you to you two for joining and Rocky for hosting. I really enjoy these Twitter spaces and think they're productive to get both feedback from the community, but also help regarding education and awareness within the community. But yeah, as always, looking forward to hopefully having more Twitter spaces together, as well as co-marketing and continuing to work closely together. So thank you guys for joining, and let's all continue to build together and hope the underlying period of kind of bullish market conditions continues to go on.
Let's go. Thanks everyone for being here. Join us next week, Monday. We're going to have Dexlot on Avalanche Spaces, so tune in then. I hope everyone has a great weekend, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Bye bye.